Hello, today my speech will be the last part of food fortification series. I would like to draw your attention to the nutritional imbalance and food insecurity between developed and developing countries. Let me shortly remind you of the development of food fortification in the history. The incidence of goiter and its prevention by the addition of small amounts of iodine was discovered in 1920s. Potassium iodide was added to the table salt and made available to the public on the grocery store shelves in 1924. Addition of vitamins and or minerals to grain products began in the late 1930s with selected nutrients, primarily thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, iron, and calcium, being added in amounts to restore the natural content of grain which may have been modified during processing, that is enrichment. While mandatory, food fortification has been used as a strategy to prevent micronutrient deficiencies in high-income countries, dating as far back as the 1920s in Europe and North America when the first salt was iodized. It is still less common in less and middle-income countries where food systems are not delivering nutritionally adequate diets due to the production and consumption of just a few major starchy food crops like maize, rice, or wheat, with low micronutrient content and or bioavailability. Nearly 3 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet. 80% of the world's poorest people live in rural areas and work in agriculture. Investing in rural development and in surrounding areas provides a development path which rapidly lifts people out of poverty and reduces forced migration. It will also boost food security globally. However, Copenhagen consensus held in 2014 have recognized food fortification as one of the top priorities for reducing micronutrient malnutrition at the global level. More than 80 countries have made it mandatory to fortify at least one major grain. These grains are usually fortified with vitamin A, iron, and folic acid, which help prevent blindness, anemia, and birth defects and improve cognitive abilities. Food fortification is well-established strategies to address micronutrient deficiencies in vulnerable populations. However, the effectiveness of fortification programs is not only determined by the biological efficacy of the fortified foods, but also by effective and sustainable implementation, which requires continual monitoring, quality assurance and control, and also corrective measures to ensure high compliance. The most common form of micronutrients include iron, iodine, vitamin A, and zinc and folate. The World Health Organization and United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization have identified 4 main strategies for addressing micronutrient malnutrition. First of them, nutrition education, leading to increased diversity and quality of diets. And the second one, food fortification and biofortification. The third one, supplementation and disease control measures. Each of these strategies has a place in reducing 39 million children under the age of 5 were overweight or obese in 2020. Obesity was once considered a high-income country problem. However, the rates of children who overweight and obese are now increasing in low and middle-income countries. For instance, obesity in children under 5 years of age has increased by nearly 24% in Africa since the year 2000. As shown in figure referring to child malnutrition estimates conducted by UNICEF, WHO and World Bank, the prevalence of stunting is estimated as 22% in the world. The high-income countries has a value of 3.3%, while least developed countries was calculated as 33.8%. With respect to vitamin A, supplementation coverage rate in 2020 in least developed countries and low and middle income countries were 48% and 39% respectively. Regarding anemia among children less than 59 months, prevalence of anemia in 2019 in least developed and low middle income countries were 58% and 43% respectively. It was estimated as 14% in OECD member states. As clearly seen, there are large differences between high-income countries and less-income countries. In respect to iodization, consumption of iodized salt in less developed countries was over 80%. A study conducted by Darton Hill et al. In 2015 indicated that fortifying with vitamin A was estimated to reduce the prevalence of deficiency in children less than 5 years of age from 33.3% to 25.7% globally. Effectively fortifying with iron would be expected to reduce anemia by 14%. Salt iodization has reduced goiter by 40% in countries such as Pakistan, and fortifying flour with folic acid has reduced NTDs by 50% as shown in figure. According to UNICEF, there are large differences in stunting rate among country groups with respect to income levels. This graph shows that the rate of stunted population in high-income countries is still low and decreasing in the last 2 decades, but the rate of stunted population in those of countries with lower income groups was 48.3% in 2000, and it has been a significant decline to 35.1% since 2000. It is seen that the overweight rates in the group of countries with high income levels are considerably higher than those of countries with lower income groups. Another figure belonging to vested population, which is getting lower with the increasing income levels of countries. The rate of vested population in low and lower middle income countries are higher than those with high and upper middle income countries. According to the FAO statistic, due to the COVID, the food price index sharply increased since 2020. One of the crops whose price in this increased highly is oil. That the increase was driven by higher international palm and soy oil prices, more than offsetting lower rapeseed and sunflower oil quotations. So, what kind of a model we need to develop in order to reduce micronutrient deficiencies in the world? This figure is adopted by Darton et al. 2017. The countries, particularly low and middle income countries, need to set up a model that is based on continued program improvements. First of all, establish and advocate for need to improve population nutrient intake and lack of strategies to address this need in developing countries as a major problem. In order to move one step ahead, the countries need to develop acceptable standards and appropriate legislation by setting their goals, as well as building strategic partnership with relevant institutions and organizations. After that step, setting up compliance enforcement framework, procure equipment premix, and develop monitoring system to ensure transparency in the process, initiating production and distribution, expanding coverage, enforcing quality, ensuring utilization could be under scale-up and delivery. Monitor and model increases in micronutrient intake and measure impact and program effectiveness are necessary to measure the outcome of those. Evidence of under fortification confirms the slow progress in improving compliance against fortification standards. Identify challenges at industry, government, and retail levels, such as critical points along the food value chain that prevent consistent compliance as indicated in table. Consequently, food fortification is a cost-effective intervention with the potential to address malnutrition globally. Studies on the fortification of foods have shown positive results not only in the control and prevention of micronutrient deficiencies among vulnerable populations, especially women and children, but also along social, economic, and environmental dimensions.